Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Fort Myers. And thank you, choir, and Lesley and John, for the beautiful music this morning. That was great. I'm Lesley Gatto, and I'm a worship associate serving alongside my fellow worship associate and vice president of worship, Lesley Peterson. The two Leslies. Welcome to you, old friends and new, young and old. You are an essential part of our celebration today. Whether this is your first time or your 1000th Sunday in our midst, we are stronger because you are with us, online and in person. We are one people of many beliefs, many origins, many sexualities, and many genders. We are all growing, all learning, all loved. You are welcome here, just as you are. If you are a guest or feeling new to the congregation, you are invited to complete a connection card. They're found in the chat box online or at the welcome table in the lobby. I'd like to recognize everyone who makes our services flow each Sunday. Our tech team, our music team, and a special shout out to our stewardship team who created a fun and profitable auction and Las Vegas night. About $8,000 was raised. Thank you all. And those of you who did not help with the auction but came and played games and bid on things, thank you too. Author Jennifer Chiavarini writes, "People need stories. We use stories to teach, to learn, to make sense of the world around us. As long as we need stories, we will need books. And as long as there are books, there will be libraries. You are invited to pursue our Right to Read Libraries book sale today during potluck." I said pursue, and I certainly meant peruse. So peruse the library books that are for sale. And snowbirds, listen up. Before you fly north, sorting through your pantry for unopened staples you don't want to lug up there with you. Bring them to UUCFM prior to your departure to support the South Fort Myers Food Pantry Coalition, which is our sharing partner for March and April. UUCFM is one of the coalition's founding organizations providing food and volunteers. And now our service begins.
Our call to worship this morning is from the words of the 11th century Sufi mystic and poet, Rumi. Your acts of kindness are iridescent wings of divine love, which linger and continue to uplift others long after your sharing. Come, let us share together that spirit of kindness and love as we worship together. I would now like to invite you to rise in body or spirit as we light our chalice, as is done in UU congregations every Sunday around the world. Love is the spirit of this congregation, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
When Ben was 13, he started collecting buttons. Not because he sewed, not because he crafted, but because his grandmother kept a glass jar of them on her kitchen windowsill. And when she died, no one else wanted it. So Ben took the jar. At first, it just sat on his dresser. A jumbled mix of pearl buttons, brass buttons, bright plastic ones shaped like stars. Whenever he felt restless, he'd shake the jar and listen to the soft clatter. The year he turned 14, things at school shifted. His best friend, Mario, stopped sitting with him at lunch. Mario had made the baseball team. Ben hadn't. Mario had new friends now, new inside jokes, new places to sit. It wasn't cruel exactly, just drifting. One afternoon, as Ben passed the gym, he saw Mario sitting alone on the bleachers. Mario's shoulders were hunched. His baseball cap was in his hands, twisted tight. Ben almost kept walking. He told himself Mario had chosen new friends, and he would be fine. Ben could have chosen pride or self-protection. Instead, he sat down next to Mario a few feet away. "Coach bench you?" Ben asked lightly. Mario gave a short laugh, something like that. They sat in silence for a minute. Finally, Mario said, "My parents are splitting up." The words landed heavy between them. Ben didn't know what to say. There was no clever fix. He reached for something, anything, and came up empty. Then he remembered the jar. His grandmother used to say, whenever threads pull tight in her sewing, that's when you need a good button. Ben never understood what she meant. Buttons didn't remove tension. They just held things together. Ben nudged Mario's shoulder with his own. "That stinks," he said simply. "You want to come over? We could just talk or not talk." Mario's grip loosened on his cap. "Yeah," he said. That night they sat on Ben's bedroom floor, the jar of buttons between them. Mario picked one up, shiny with little bumps. "What's this from?" he said. "No idea," said Ben. "I think that's the point. It held something together once. Maybe it still could." Mario rolled it between his fingers. They didn't solve anything that night. Mario's parents still separated. Ben still didn't make the team. The world did not rearrange itself into fairness, but something steadied. In the weeks that followed, Ben found himself noticing moments where tension gathered. At home, when his parents' voices tightened. At school, when someone sat alone. Even inside himself, when he began to fray at the edges with jealousy or hurt. He couldn't fix most of it, but sometimes he could sit down quietly beside it. Sometimes he could offer a word or an invitation. He began carrying one small button in his pocket, the little, bumpy, shiny one. Not as a charm, not as magic, just as a reminder. Kindness, he was learning, doesn't erase strain. It doesn't make fabric new again. It sits at the place where pressure meets, where grief, fear, anger, or loneliness pull from every direction. And it holds. Years later, long after the buttons had scattered, Mario would tell him, "You know that year? I don't remember most of it, but I remember you stayed." Ben reached in his pocket and pulled out the button. Smiling, he placed it in Mario's hand, but said nothing. He didn't need to. If you picked up a stone this morning, you are invited to hold it. Not as magic, not as a charm, but simply as a reminder. Fill the stone with whatever you carry today, your hopes, your gratitude, your worries, your grief. Imagine placing that stone in a shared bowl of sand where it joins the intentions of this caring community. There are stones in the baskets beside the sand if you need one. If you're worshiping online, you may share your intentions in the chat box. I will place the first stone for Patricia Vivier Nadel, who is having several health challenges. She requests your prayers only. No visits or calls at this time, please. I think this one reminds me of Patricia. And now a final stone is offered for all that remains in the quiet places of our hearts. The words we have not spoken, the prayers we have not named. May they be held in love, and may our spirits be gently renewed.
I'd now like to invite us in to a time of centering and contemplation. Make yourself comfortable. If you'd like to close your eyes and just relax, you're perfectly welcome to do so. We're going to be considering the words of Naomi Shihab Nye. She was inspired during a traumatic 1978 trip to Popayan, Colombia, to write a poem entitled Kindness. During that visit, she was robbed of her belongings and witnessed the death of a fellow traveler. This experience of profound loss and desolation taught her that true kindness is only understood after navigating deep sorrow, rather than just being simply a polite gesture. The poem argues that experiencing desolate landscapes and sorrow is necessary to fully grasp kindness, which then becomes a shadow or a friend that helps you move forward. Before you know what kindness really is, you must lose things. Feel the future dissolve in a moment, like salt in a weakened broth. What you held in your hand, what you counted and carefully saved, all this must go now, so you know how desolate the landscape can be between the regions of kindness. How you ride and ride, thinking the bus will never stop. The passengers eating maize, and chickens stare out the window forever. Before you learn the tender gravity of kindness, you must travel where the Indian in a white poncho lies dead by the side of the road. You must see how this could be you, how he too was someone who journeyed through the night with plans and the simple breath that kept him alive. Before you know kindness as the deepest thing inside, you must know sorrow as the other deepest thing. You must wake up with sorrow. You must speak to it till your voice catches the thread of all sorrows and you see the size of the cloth. Then it is only kindness that makes sense anymore. Only kindness that ties your shoes and sends you out into the day to gaze at bread. Only kindness that raises its head from the crowd of the world to say, "It is I you have been looking for," and then goes with you everywhere, like a shadow or a friend. You may now take a final deep breath and come back here into this time and into this place. One of the things that I love about being a Unitarian Universalist is that we are a people who can find sacredness in the most ordinary places, even in the middle of a rerun of a beloved TV show. I was reminded of that recently while watching an episode of MASH. In it, Captain Hawkeye Pierce turns to Father Mulcahy after the chaplain has extended him a quiet, almost unremarkable kindness. And with his characteristic mix of humor and sincerity, he says, "You're the button on the cap of kindness." Father Mulcahy asks if he may use that line, and Hawkeye agrees. That phrase stayed with me, and I began to wonder what it might mean to be the button on the cap of kindness. It sounds whimsical at first, but the more I thought about it, the more substantial it became. Could I also use that line? I had a feeling there was a sermon in that small statement. And I'm not sure if Father Mulcahy ever wrote one, but here we are now. And with what I would assume are Hawkeye's and Father Mulcahy's approval, I'm going to deliver one. The small button at the crown of a baseball cap, technically called a squatchy, is not decorative. It's at the very point where the 6 panels of fabric meet. That junction is structurally vulnerable. It bears stress from every direction. Without reinforcement, it weakens. The button secures and stabilizes the place where tension converges. It does not remove strain from the cap. It allows the cap to hold under strain. And we are living in a time when strain is not hypothetical. It is political and cultural, moral and personal. It shows up in our public discourse, in our congregations, and in our families. We feel it tightening of conversations and in the quickness with which disagreement becomes suspicion. The seams are pulling. And so the question becomes, what holds when pressure increases? Part of the strain we are experiencing is not only political, but moral. There has been in recent years a reframing of empathy itself. Within segments of the MAGA-aligned Christian right, empathy has been described as toxic, even sinful. Joe Rigney, in The Sin of Empathy, argues that excessive emotional identification can compromise biblical truth. Allie Beth Stuckey, in Toxic Empathy, suggests that compassion for marginalized communities may be manipulated in ways that soften convictions that, in her view, ought to remain firm. The conversation has also entered political language. Vice President J.D. Vance has invoked the classical Christian concept of ordo amoris, ordered love. Rooted in Augustine, this idea acknowledges that love is not undifferentiated. We have particular responsibilities to those closest to us. Family before neighbor, neighbor before stranger, citizen before foreigner. There's something intuitively compelling in that claim. Human capacity is not finite. As someone once put it, love may be unlimited, but time is not. We cannot respond equally to every need at a distance. But something shifts when ordered love becomes a ranking system that constrains moral concern rather than directing it. In February of 2025, Pope Francis addressed this interpretation directly in a letter to U.S. bishops. He cautioned that Christian love is not a concentric expansion of interests, not a hierarchy in which care diminishes as distance increases. Instead, he pointed to the Good Samaritan, who crossed boundaries of tribe and nation to tend to the wounded stranger. Love, he suggested, may begin somewhere, but it doesn't end there. And it is here that current reframing becomes unstable. When people are urged to steel themselves against images of suffering, to resist what is labeled emotional manipulation, empathy itself becomes suspect. Compassion is cast as vulnerability. The problem is no longer how to love wisely, but how to feel less. That shift matters. Policies will continue to be debated. Laws will continue to be enacted. But when empathy is treated as weakness, the internal discipline that constrains cruelty begins to erode. Indifference can begin to pass for conviction. Harshness can be mistaken for courage. And something essential, not only in theology, but in the fabric of shared life, begins to fray. Now, because the language being used by the MAGA right is Christian language, let us examine it within Christian theology itself. To describe empathy as sinful is in many ways a theological inversion. Christianity has historically centered empathy. Speaking of Jesus, Paul writes in his letter to the Hebrews, "For we do not have a high priest who is unable to empathize with our weaknesses, but one who in every respect has been tempted as we are." The incarnation itself is a theological claim that God does not remain distant from human suffering, but enters into it. Jesus' own words go further. In Matthew 25, he says, "For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me." And when the righteous ask, when did we see you thus? He answers, "Truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these, my brothers and sisters, you did also for me." This is not abstract morality. It is identification. The hungry and thirsty are not required to demonstrate that they deserve compassion. The stranger is not a category to be ranked, but a presence through whom the sacred is encountered. The sick are not to be screened for moral worth before they are tended. The imprisoned are not outside the circle of concern. They are Christ. Within that framework, to suggest that empathy is sinful is not refinement, it is reversal. There has been pushback against the MAGA rights argument from within Christianity itself. In addition to Pope Francis's response, David French, a Christian and columnist for the New York Times, has argued that the problem is not empathy, but its selective application. Compassion does not negate truth, he suggests. It shapes how truth is lived. He proposes that empathy will not resolve every policy debate, but it constrains cruelty. We may say that it functions as reinforcement at the seam, as the button that holds under strain. And this insight is not uniquely Christian. Across traditions and centuries, spiritual maturity has consistently been associated with the widening of concern rather than the hardening of boundaries. In Buddhism, metta, loving kindness, is cultivated intentionally. Compassion is disciplined expansion. In Judaism, hesed is covenantal. You shall not oppress the stranger, for you were strangers. Memory becomes moral obligation. In Islam, Rahmah, mercy, frames nearly every chapter of the Quran. Mercy precedes judgment. In Hindu traditions, ahisma arises from the recognition that the sacred permeates all of life. In Sikhism, seva, or selfless service, feeds and serves without asking who is worthy. In Wicca, the read, and at harm none, do as you will, balances our desire for individualism with the reality of our interdependence. Different cosmologies, distinct theologies, yet a shared recognition that compassion is not ornamental to spiritual life, it is integral to it. It binds communities that might otherwise fracture and steadies them when fear or anger threaten to tear them apart. If so many traditions converge on the necessity of widening the circle of care, then the claim that empathy itself is sinful stands not only in tension with Christianity, but with a deep current of human wisdom. It reminds us that compassion is not weakness. It is the thread that binds. It is the support that steadies. It is what holds when pressure pulls at the seams. Empathy is the button. Unitarian Universalism gathers many of these threads. We are covenantal rather than creedal. We affirm the inherent worth and dignity of every person. We commit ourselves to justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. We honor the interdependent web of existence. These are commitments meant to hold under stress, with the button of empathy providing a balancing point. For without empathy, justice can slide into retribution. Equity can become impersonal. Dignity can remain rhetorical rather than lived. And so, empathy disciplines conviction. It does not require us to surrender what we believe, but insists that our beliefs remain accountable to love, that we consider how they land in the lives of real people and whether they reflect the dignity that we claim to honor. That kind of accountability is not weakness. It requires intellectual honesty and moral courage. It asks us to examine our own assumptions, to listen when it would be easier to dismiss, and to speak firmly without forfeiting compassion. Love, at its best, is not sentimental. It is disciplined strength. And we UUs have not held these commitments in theory alone. We have again and again turned principle into presence. Theodore Parker did not simply preach against slavery from the safety of a pulpit. He participated in Boston's Vigilance Committee, helping freedom seekers evade capture under the Fugitive Slave Act, at real personal and legal risk. His theory of human dignity required more than eloquence. It required action. Nearly a century later, James Reeb answered a call to Selma, not as an actor, but as a minister who believed that racial justice was inseparable from spiritual integrity. He was beaten and later died from his injuries. His presence there testified to the conviction that faith must show up where suffering is. Our movement affirmed LGBTQ dignity long before it was culturally safe or institutionally rewarded to do so. Congregations risked backlash and loss in order to say publicly what we privately believed, that queer lives are not deviations from humanity, but rather expressions of it. And across the country, congregations open their doors to families facing deportation, offering sanctuary not because immigration policy is simple, but because dignity is not negotiable. Today, members of this congregation go to Alligator Alcatraz. We go because detaining human beings without due process and in inhumane conditions violates inherent worth and dignity. We go because love does not permit us to look away. We stand outside razor wire and concrete walls and remember that inside are human beings with names and histories and families and fears. Detained is not an abstraction. It is a person sitting on a bunk, waiting and worrying and weeping. Seeing is the beginning of empathy, and empathy begins with paying attention paying attention so that we may understand the other person rather than reduce them to a category. It is the button that reinforces the fraying seams of our society. Now, not everyone can travel to detention centers. Our lives unfold under very different circumstances: work schedules, health limitations, caregiving responsibilities, financial constraints. Not everyone is able to participate in organized public witness. But the work of reinforcement begins much closer to home. It begins where we notice where our empathy narrows. It continues when we resist the coarsening of language that has become so common in public life. Across the political divide, we hear ugly words like democrat and Republican, libtard and snowflake tossed around carelessly. Entire human beings reduced to epithets. In their place, straw men are constructed and knocked down. Ad hominem attacks replace reasoned discourse. When we repeatedly reduce others to insults, dismissal becomes easy. And when dismissal becomes habitual, cruelty becomes thinkable. Even when we believe someone is wrong, deeply categorically wrong, we are not released from the discipline of recognizing their humanity. I try to practice this in small ways, and while I'm not perfect at it, I am working to be better. For example, there are memes I've seen on social media, ones where I might agree with the overall message, but I won't share. I'll give you an example. If you elected a billionaire who's appointing other billionaires to fix the system that made them billionaires, you must be a special kind of stupid. I refrain from sharing memes like this, not because I'm uncertain of my convictions, but because I find that labeling an entire group of people as stupid is dismissal and unhelpful to civil discourse. I may agree that the position being mocked is ill-informed, but I'd prefer to comment on the position rather than the person. Communicating firmly, yet kindly, is something that is sorely missing in today's society. One of the people I look to as an example of this is my husband, Walter, who's with us in the sound booth. Actually, he's in the back pew this morning. I have watched him endure ad hominem attacks on social media posts time and again, and yet refrain from returning the attacks. He sticks to reasoned arguments. He doesn't back down, believe me. He will go on the thread, but he responds to ideas rather than attacking persons. That too is strength. That too is being the button. Over time, I've come to understand that people often hold beliefs I strongly disagree with, not because they lack intelligence, but because their lived experience has shaped them differently than mine has shaped me. When I was younger, I held views that I would firmly reject today, not because I was stupid, not because I was incapable of rational thought, but because of how I was raised and what I had not yet encountered. As Maya Angelou reminds us, when we know better, we do better. My understanding changed. My commitments evolved. But my humanity was intact then, just as it is now. Not long ago in a college course on diversity, I encountered a principle that has stayed with me. Shame and blame rarely lead to growth. They may energize those who already agree with us, but they almost never open the heart of someone who doesn't. More often they entrench positions and harden them. And so if my goal is to change hearts and minds rather than simply gain applause from my own side, I have to remain mindful of the humanity of others, even when I believe that they are wrong, perhaps deeply, deeply wrong. Listening does not require us to abandon conviction. It does not prevent us from speaking out. Rather, it asks us to hold our convictions in a way that does not strip the dignity of others. And let me be clear, exercising that kind of restraint is not weakness. Speaking up for what we believe while refusing to let our emotions harden into contempt requires strength. Strength of mind and strength of character. It takes discipline to resist the easy insult. It takes courage to argue passionately without dehumanizing. It takes maturity to remain steady at the stream when anger would be simpler. Civil discourse is rarely glamorous work. It does not trend, it does not draw applause, but it is fascinating work. Small, steady, often unnoticed. It is being the button. And so perhaps the question is not whether we will live in a time of strain. That much is clear. The question is, what kind of presence will we be within it? Will we fray or will we hold? This is the choice. This is where we decide what we will contribute to the world we wish to see. Possibility is not only the miracle that arrives suddenly, it is also the slow miracle that we build, thread by thread, choice by choice, act by act. And so here is the invitation. Be the quiet reinforcement when tension gathers. Be the presence that steadies rather than splits. Be the one who notices, who softens, who connects. May we be the button on the cap of kindness, not because we are perfect, but because we are present, because we choose connection, and because we still believe in the possibility of building a better world. Amen, Ashe, and blessed be.
In these chaotic times, the liberal hopes and teachings of the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Fort Myers are needed more than ever. Your financial support helps us live more fully into our values, and strengthens our community. As we strive to be a welcoming place to explore individual spirituality, build a loving community, and help heal the world, we depend on the generosity of people like you. The Neighbors Network of Lee County Incorporated is our cash sharing partner for March. Their mission is to make the experience of aging in one's own home possible, with neighbors helping neighbors across generations to create a socially connected community, Neighbors by Choice. Many of their programs occur here on our campus. Please use the envelope at the end of the pew for your gift to UUCFM. All funds placed directly in the offering bag without the envelope will be shared with the Neighbors Network. May this offering be generously given, gratefully received, and rooted in love for our congregation and the greater community.
Yesterday's nights were cloudy and gray, oh so gray. Now I see dark clouds drifting away, far away. My heart's riding a rainbow, skipping over the breeze. The spring is here, and I can do as I please. And I will sing, sing the sunshine. All the world is in harmony. All my troubles have disappeared. Now I'm gonna sing to welcome the spring. I'm singing the sunshine with me. Everywhere I see flowers in bloom, beautiful bloom, and the air is filled with gentle perfume, gentle perfume. All the wonders of nature seem like magic to me. The spring is here, and I feel happy and free. And so I'll sing, sing the sunshine. All the world is in harmony. All my troubles have disappeared. Now I'm gonna sing to welcome the spring. Come sing in the sunshine with me. I'm gonna sing, sing in the sunshine. All the world is in harmony. Just sing, sing in the sunshine. Just sing, sing the sunshine with me. The sunshine with me.
Please join in the words of gratitude. By the work of our hands and the work of our hearts, our love is made real. May we be grateful for all that is given and grateful for all that is shared. And now we extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
May you leave here attentive to suffering, to beauty, to the quiet work that needs doing. May you remember that empathy begins with paying attention. May you resist the easy insult. May you choose steadiness over spectacle. And when you find yourself at a seam in your family, in your workplace, in your community, may you be the small, faithful reinforcement that helps everything hold. Go in peace, go in courage, go in kindness.
I'm so glad you joined us today. After the worship team exits the sanctuary, please greet your neighbor and join others in Hobart Hall for conversation over potluck lunch. There's always a seat at the table, even if you didn't bring a dish to share. Those on Zoom are invited to stay on for connection and conversation as well. And one quick reminder, there is a forum on the budget for the upcoming fiscal year on Zoom today at 2:30. It's the same Zoom link that you use when you go into the Sunday worship service, which would be in your order of worship today, or you can find it online. We look forward to seeing you again next Sunday.